Imagine a world where bustling crowds don't overwhelm you, where loud noises don't feel like an invasion, and where the smallest details don't constantly demand your attention. This isn't a fantasy, it's a reality for those who understand and harness the power of their sensitivity. You see, being a highly sensitive person isn't a flaw to be fixed, it's a unique lens through which the world is experienced in vivid, rich detail. This heightened awareness, known as sensory processing sensitivity, was first identified by psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron. It's not about being weak or overly emotional, it's about possessing a finely tuned nervous system that picks up on subtleties others might miss. Picture this: while others walk through life like a ship on autopilot, you're the captain, attentively navigating every nuance of the journey. But with great perception comes the need for protection. Just as a greenhouse nurtures delicate plants, you too need a safe space to thrive. So, how do you build your greenhouse? How do you transform your sensitivity from a perceived weakness into a source of strength and resilience? This journey begins with understanding, acceptance, and a few practical tools to help you flourish. In the realm of sensory experiences, a highly sensitive person, HSP, often finds themselves at odds with the world's seemingly innocuous stimuli. The flicker of fluorescent lights, the cacophony of a bustling city, or even the low hum of a refrigerator can feel overwhelming. This isn't merely a matter of preference or annoyance, it's a literal calibration issue of their sensory processing systems. According to the concept of sensory processing sensitivity, first introduced by psychologist Elaine Aron, HSPs have a more sensitive nervous system. This means their brains process sensory information more deeply and thoroughly than the average person. Consider the hum of a refrigerator. To most, it's a background noise, easily ignored. But to an HSP, it can be a constant, intrusive presence. It's not that they're imagining the sound to be louder. Their brains are literally processing it more intently. This heightened sensitivity is often compared to the volume knob on a stereo being turned up higher. It's not that the music is louder, but that they're hearing it more clearly, more intensely. This can lead to a state of sensory overload, where the brain becomes overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information it's processing. This literal sensor calibration issue isn't a flaw. It's a feature, a result of evolution. Think of it like a photographer's light meter. While a standard meter might give a general reading, an HSP's meter is more precise. It picks up on nuances, subtleties that others might miss. This can be incredibly useful in situations where attention to detail is crucial. However, in a world designed for the average sensory processor, this heightened sensitivity can feel like a burden. It's important to understand that this isn't just about discomfort. It's about neurological wiring. The brains of HSPs have more active mirrors neurons, which are responsible for empathy and understanding others' emotions. They also have a more active insula, the part of the brain responsible for processing emotions and sensory information. This means that when an HSP is overwhelmed by sensory input, it's not just their ears or eyes that are affected. Their entire emotional landscape can shift. But this same sensitivity that makes them prone to sensory overload also gives them a unique perspective on the world, a depth of understanding that others might not possess. This understanding, this empathy, is a hidden strength, a silver lining to the challenge of heightened sensitivity. Imagine a scientist meticulously preparing an experiment. They wouldn't set up their delicate equipment in the middle of a bustling city street, nor would they conduct their research during a hurricane. Instead, they'd choose a controlled environment, like a laboratory. This sanctuary of stability allows them to manipulate variables, observe outcomes, and draw conclusions with precision. For the highly sensitive person, HSP, life can feel like a complex experiment, and their mind is the laboratory. Just as a scientist seeks a controlled environment, HSPs need to create their own greenhouse, a space where they can process life's complexities without the chaos of external storms. The concept of a controlled environment isn't just metaphorical. It's rooted in psychological principles, such as sensory processing sensitivity. This theory, developed by psychologist Elaine Aron, suggests that HSPs process sensory data more deeply and thoroughly than others. Imagine trying to read a book in a noisy cafe versus a quiet library. The cafe's chaos forces your brain to expend extra energy filtering out distractions, leaving less mental bandwidth for comprehension. Similarly, HSPs find it challenging to process life's complexities amidst chaos. Their brains are like high-resolution cameras, capturing intricate details that others might miss. But like a camera, they need stability to focus and capture the image clearly. Creating a greenhouse involves more than just physical space. It's about cultivating an environment that supports emotional and mental well-being. For instance, consider an HSP trying to make a significant decision. In a chaotic environment, their mind might be pulled in multiple directions, like a radio tuning into various stations simultaneously. But in their greenhouse, they can tune into one station at a time, evaluating options calmly and thoroughly. This aligns with the psychological concept of self-determination theory, which posits that people thrive when they have autonomy, competence, and relatedness. The greenhouse provides the autonomy to make choices, the competence to make them effectively, and the relatedness to connect with oneself and others meaningfully. Moreover, the greenhouse isn't a place of isolation. Think of a greenhouse in nature. It's open to sunlight and air, allowing nourishment to flow in while protecting from harsh weather. Similarly, HSPs can remain open to experiences and connections, learning from them while protecting their sensitivity. They can step out when needed, but always retreat to their greenhouse to process and recharge. This dynamic is akin to the philosophical concept of fortified solitude espoused by Pascal. It's about finding strength and clarity in solitude, not as a retreat from life, but as a means to engage with it more deeply and authentically. Thus, the greenhouse becomes not just a sanctuary, but a launchpad for meaningful engagement with the world. The human nervous system operates much like a delicate instrument, finely tuned to the world around it. For highly sensitive people, this tuning is even more precise, often requiring an environment of low stimulation to maintain optimal functioning. This need isn't about hiding, it's about resource optimization. Picture a laptop running multiple applications at once. The more programs open, the slower it becomes, the hotter it gets, and the more likely it is to crash. Similarly, highly sensitive individuals may feel overwhelmed and overstimulated in environments with too much sensory input. This isn't a sign of weakness or fear, it's a logical strategy to keep their operating temperature stable, a concept akin to the psychological principle of sensory processing sensitivity, first described by Dr. Elaine Aron. It's not that they can't handle the stimulation, it's that they choose not to preserve their energy and mental clarity. Consider the difference between a solar panel in direct sunlight and one in the shade. The one in the shade may not be generating as much power, but it's also not at risk of overheating or burning out. Similarly, highly sensitive individuals may not be as productive in high-stimulation environments, but they're also not at risk of mental burnout. This is a form of self-regulation, a strategy used to maintain homeostasis, a concept in psychology that refers to the body's ability to maintain a stable internal state. It's not about avoiding life, it's about engaging with it in a way that's sustainable. Think of it like a dimmer switch on a light. Some people are like lights that only have an on and off switch. They're either fully engaged or completely disengaged. But highly sensitive individuals are like lights with a dimmer switch. They can adjust their level of engagement based on their needs and the demands of their environment. This flexibility is a strength, not a weakness. It's not about hiding, it's about strategic engagement. It's about knowing when to step back and recharge, and when to step forward and engage. This is a form of energy conservation, a strategy used to maintain peak performance over the long term. Picture this: you're at a bustling party, laughter echoing off the walls, music pounding, lights flickering. For most, it's a pleasant hum of activity. But for a highly sensitive person, HSP, it's an overwhelming symphony of stimuli. Their brain, equipped with a trait known as sensory processing sensitivity, absorbs it all, every nuance, every detail. It's not a choice, it's a neurological fact. They don't just hear the music, they feel its vibrations, notice the off-key notes. They don't just see the crowd, they read the subtle shifts in body language, the unspoken tensions. This heightened awareness, while a gift, can be exhausting. It's like being a human antenna, perpetually tuned in. Building a greenhouse, metaphorically speaking, is about creating a sanctuary, a controlled environment where an HSP can thrive. Boundaries act as the sturdy walls, protecting them from the harsh winds of overwhelm. quiet time is the carefully regulated climate, allowing them to recharge. Physical comfort is the nutrient-rich soil, nurturing their well-being. This isn't about isolation, it's about intentional engagement. It's like tending to a delicate orchid. You wouldn't leave it out in the cold or under scorching sun. You'd provide it with the precise conditions it needs to flourish. That's what a greenhouse does. That's what boundaries, quiet time, and physical comfort do for an HSP. Consider the concept of self-determination theory, which highlights the importance of autonomy, competence, and relatedness for well-being. For an HSP, a greenhouse fulfills these needs. It provides autonomy, the freedom to choose when to engage with the world and when to retreat. It fosters competence, the confidence that comes from knowing one's limits and honoring them. And it encourages relatedness, the ability to connect deeply with others, not from a place of depletion, but from a place of genuine presence. It's not about building a fortress to keep the world out. It's about creating a safe space from which an HSP can choose to engage with the world on their own terms. It's the only sane way to manage a brain that notices everything. After all, even the most resilient plant needs a stable environment to grow. You are the gardener of your own life, and your greenhouse is the space where you nurture your growth, protect your vulnerabilities, and cultivate your strengths. This is where you practice self-care, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. It's where you retreat to recharge, to process the overwhelming stimuli of the world, and to honor your unique nervous system. This is not about isolation or avoidance, it's about strategic withdrawal, a concept rooted in the psychological principle of sensory processing sensitivity. This principle, introduced by psychologist Elaine Aron, describes how highly sensitive people process sensory data more deeply and thoroughly than others. Your greenhouse is your sanctuary, your safe haven where you can process the world at your own pace. Thinking of your greenhouse as a service station puts a different spin on maintenance. It's not a chore, but a vital part of keeping your high-performance machine running smoothly. Consider an athlete. They don't see their rest days as a break from their goals, but as a crucial part of achieving them. Similarly, your time in the greenhouse is not time away from life, but time invested in your ability to fully engage with it. It's where you practice mindfulness, tend to your emotional garden, and perhaps even indulge in a hobby that brings you joy and fulfillment. This is where you build your resilience, your emotional stamina, and your capacity for joy. Moreover, the greenhouse is not a prison. It's not a place of confinement, but a space of empowerment. It's where you set boundaries, not as a way to keep the world out, but as a way to let the right things in. It's where you practice assertiveness, not as a way to dominate others, but as a way to advocate for your needs. This aligns with the philosophical ideas of existentialist thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre, who emphasized the importance of personal freedom and responsibility. In your greenhouse, you are not a passive recipient of life's circumstances, but an active agent in shaping your experience. You are not trapped, you are anchored. And from this anchor, you can venture out into the world, not with trepidation, but with confidence, knowing that you have a safe space to return to. This is not a limitation, but a liberation. It's not a restriction, but a foundation. It's your power source, your home base, your greenhouse. As we've seen, being a highly sensitive person is not a weakness, but a unique strength. It's like having a built-in greenhouse, a sanctuary where your sensitivity is nurtured and protected. You've learned to recognize your depth of processing, your heightened empathy, and your rich inner life as assets, not burdens. Remember, as psychologist Elaine Aron, who coined the term sensory processing sensitivity, puts it, high sensitivity is not a flaw to be cured. It's a trait to be understood and managed wisely. Now, imagine stepping out of your greenhouse, not to hide from the world, but to share its beauty. Each of you has a unique perspective, a gift of insight that only a highly sensitive person can offer. So, how can you use this gift to make a difference? How can you turn your sensitivity into a force for good? In our next video, we'll explore the power of sensitive leadership. We'll meet individuals who've harnessed their sensitivity to inspire, to create, and to lead. We'll learn how their empathy and depth of perception have helped them build connections, foster innovation, and drive change. We'll delve into the concept of emotional intelligence, popularized by psychologist Daniel Goleman, and see how it's intertwined with sensitive leadership. So, if you're ready to take the next step to transform your sensitivity into a beacon of leadership, stay tuned. And remember, your greenhouse is not just a place of refuge. It's a place of power. A place of potential. A place from which you can change the world.